You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Stephen Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm joined by Tim Thomas. Normally, Tim Thomas is around during basketball season. We got him to come on before he spends 3 weeks in England to talk about the commitments that Ole Miss has got and some visitors on campus and where Ole Miss might be looking next. How you doing, Tim?
Doing good. Ready to talk about some of these bucket getters.
You're right. Absolutely. And Ole Miss got a couple of commitments earlier in the week. We'll start off with the first one they got. They got a commitment from Mikeal Brown-Jones. He's from North Carolina, Greensboro, averaged nearly 19 points a game, 7.5 rebounds, 1.1 assists. Now, you have a situation with some of these big names, or both of these commits, they're compact big men. So it's not like a Jamarian Sharp or a Moussa Cisse. It's more of that Chris Beard comfort zone to where you're going to have some guys like 6'9", 6'10", that can move around and play defense.
Yeah, I like to concentrate on that second one there, the rebounds. We were a horrendous rebounder this year, and I think he's getting some guys that can score, 18 to 20 points a game, like Jones and the other fellow we'll talk about. But he rebounds well. He moves well. He's in. He goes out. He can shoot a three, I think like 43%. So he's an excellent player, a great pickup for the Rebels, and I think he's going to really help, especially on the rebounding part.
Yeah, and I can't figure out if he's a 4 or a 5 in this lineup, because Ole Miss got another commitment from Malik Dia. He's another 6'9", 6'10", big man. And when you look at his stats, the numbers are pretty much similar. About 17 points a game, 5.8 rebounds a game, 1.2 assists. This is a guy that shoots the ball pretty well from the outside. I wouldn't call him a stretch 4 type player, but he has the ability to shoot the three. So he's not Jamin Brakefield, but he can shoot from the outside.
Yeah, he's a decent rebounder too, and he weighs 246.9. That's a good size kid, and he pops out for the three. He shoots at 35%, so he's a bucket getter also. Really, like you've talked about, we got to replace Morrell, we got to replace Flanagan, and I think Juju's coming back. I think Brafield's coming back, but we'll see how that eventually goes. But we got people that score. We got to have people that score, and he can score inside, outside. And he gets fouled a lot, so he makes free throws. But he said something not too long ago, he's going to shock the world. So he's got a lot of confidence in himself. He has a lot of swagger, you might call it. And I think that's good. The kids, Dan Hurley, I listened to an interview with him. I think he's the best basketball coach out there right now, in my opinion. He's won the last 2 national championships, so kind of hard to refute that. And he said that's you got to have a swagger. You got to have a little wanting to show yourself and be your best, and that's what that Dia guy has. I want one other thing about Dan Hurley. They asked him on the CBS Morning Show, what did he look for in his kids? How is he getting all these great kids? He said, the parents. I look at the parents, how they treat their kid. They hold them accountable. They hold them responsible. I talk to the parents, and I can tell the way they talk if they're going to be always blaming the coach and always blaming this, never, hey, my kid's got to work harder. So that he looks for that. And he mentioned one of the things that's very key that we've talked about all year, and it also works with football in the end of 22. One bad egg can spoil the whole team. He said one bad player can spoil the whole team, the whole program, the whole season, one bad egg. So if you had someone with a bad attitude, just continuously throwing people down, he mentioned that, and I thought that was really key.
Yeah, it's interesting. And when you look at these two commits, they're two similar type players, but different than Ole Miss seemingly won a year ago with Jamarian Sharp and Moussa Cisse. I know that they wanted rim protection, but at the end of the year, a lot of times it was just those guys on the inside and everybody else was outside the arc. I think this is going to make a much more balanced basketball team.
Yeah, they play inside now. That's what Beard wants. We've talked about the positionless players. could switch without any problems. Don't have to worry about them, the little guard going around our guys. But I don't know. CC may be coming back. I hadn't seen anything different. And of course, he's John Bowl, who's 7 foot, so we'll have possible a couple big guys inside. But these guys can play the 4 or the 5. Brakefield tried to play the 5 some last year to relieve when CC or Sharp was out, but he's not very good at that. We know that. So these guys can play defense. They got some good bodies. 240, that's good. That's a good size. He's played at Vanderbilt. Dia has, so he's played in the SEC. He understands got to be tough, and I like it. He's a great rebounder.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. When we come back, there is a visitor currently on campus. We will tell you about him and potentially any other players that Ole Miss fans need to look for in regards to Ole Miss men's basketball. But before we do that, I do want to let you know about Monopoly Go. You know, we've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low and you're not sure if your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, it's time to get back out there, pull off some bank heist, and take as much of my friends' money as I can. That's right. It's the mobile smash hit mobile game, Monopoly Go. Let's compete with your friends for the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the monopoly you love with all the perks of an online app. So there's so much to do. You can do dynamic monopoly boards. You can make your friends bankrupt with a wrecking ball by wrecking their iconic landmarks. You can charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests in tournaments to get extra rewards to climb up the leaderboard. So get back out there and put on your game face and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store and in the Google Play Store. Let's get straight to the point. You want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising cost of inflation, to pay off your debt or your mortgage. Pretty much anything standing in the way of your financial freedom, right? With Yahoo Finance, you can access the data and tools to reach your goals and hit that financial freedom. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every single great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or you're looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you the tools and data you need in one place. They are the number one finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst rankings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. Securely link your brokerage account for an unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, honestly, and this podcast, and how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the best insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. The number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That is yahoofinance.com. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down all the volume with all that shouting and screaming? Make the switch over to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 streaming channel programmed for you each and every single day to bring you the biggest stories without all of that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Now, Tim, moving on, Ole Miss has a visitor currently on campus, and that visitor is Dre Davis. He was a small forward out of Seton Hall, and there's been a lot of rumors about how he might end up at Ole Miss. This is a good player, and I think this is Chris Beard trying to replace Matthew Morrell's scoring.
Yeah, he's a really good player. I watched the video on him. You may have too. Yeah, there's the stats. Played at Seton Hall. They ended up winning the NIT. Really good player. They beat UConn earlier in the year, and he showed out. He bucket getter, shoots the ball so well, 3-point shooter, rebounds well, six rebounds, for a 6'6" guy, kind of the size of Flanagan, I guess. But he really shoots well. He passes well. Good team player. Beard really wants this guy. I hope we get him. I saw he was a crystal ball about on 3, and I hope we get him because I don't think Kabir's going to let him get away from Oxford without signing him. I hope so.
Yeah, he's a really good player, and this is just another example of that stylistically. When you look at the positionless basketball, there's a whole bunch of guys that Chris Beard's going to recruit between the heights of 6'6" and 6'9", and he's going to put 5 players on the floor. That's what he wants to do, and this just kind of fits that mold.
Yeah, he's the real deal. Also, I think we need to talk about another guy. It was crystal ball on 3, Pop Isaacs. Supposedly doing an in-home visit today, is what I understand. I got some of this information from TJ Oxley. He's the Rebel Walk guy. He does a good job with the portal tracker, and he said that Beard was doing a home visit. He's a 6'2" point guard. I've talked about it a few times. They're looking for a point guard. Juju does a good job, and Juju says he's coming back, but this guy is a true point guard. He penetrates, he dishes, he throws for the lob. He's really good. He's a really good ball handler that can handle the press, and he can shoot, he can score. His little shots a little unorthodox, a little right here at the side, kind of a little different. Most people are in the front, but he's a little orthodox. But the highlights I saw, the good points, he can really score. So we'll see, but I hope they get him too.
Yeah, and there's a couple other players that are going out. Like I said, the number of transfers that Chris Beard's going to bring in is probably going to be fairly considerable. Now, if Pop Isaacs ends up at Ole Miss and you have Austin Nunez as well, does that mean Juju, he's going to be a 2 next season?
It's hard to say. He ended up being a great shooter, so that may be where he belongs. I think that's – of course, he can fill in at the point too. He learned a lot doing that, but he never was a point guard back in the day when he was at St. Peter's. So I think that's exactly right. A couple of guys we'll talk about. I found about this guy, Xavier Dussel. I was listening to another podcast with Zach Barrett with On 3. He was talking to Chris Wash, a NIL agent. He's for John Bowl and for Jamarian Sharp and for this guy. And he said that this guy was going to be in town not too long. So I'm just thinking that maybe he's going to come into town. Maybe he's going to look at him. He's a pure shooter. He can really shoot it. I may have said it. He's from Fresno State. The other guy, Raheem Moss from Toledo, he's a super scorer, 6'4", 205. He's a shooting guard. So he's going all out, like Lane Kiffin did. I think Chris Beard has the money. And I want to say a special thank you, like you all talked about, Keith Carter, Walker Jones, outstanding job, and all the donors, all of us donors out there put this together where our football team can be extremely relevant in the playoffs, and hopefully this year next year the basketball team will be relevant and will be in the NCAA tournament. I think so. I feel sure we will be.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team, every single day. Tim Thomas comes in, records before he goes off to jolly, merry old England for 3 weeks. What are you doing? What are you doing in the old country?
We're just doing a little visit. Now we're going to go to Amsterdam first and see the tulips. I told my wife, I said, there's some tulips here nearby over in Huntsville, Alabama. A couple of areas they got tulip farms, but we're going all the way to Amsterdam to see the tulips. It is really beautiful over there. And then we're going to go to England and spend several weeks in England, North England, the Lake District, and then in London and so forth, and maybe head over to Wales for a day. But we're getting to the age where guys, we're both retired, so a lot of my friends, their spouses have passed and so forth. And we're just going to do it while we can. Just be honest with you. We're going to do it while we can. But I enjoy talking to you. Enjoy Ole Miss basketball, football, baseball. I'm glad they did well last weekend. But I'm going to kind of go with what Malik Dia said. What did he say exactly? We're going to shock the world. Hopefully the Ole Miss basketball team is going to shock the world.
Yeah, and whenever you get back and get caught up, we might have you back on the show again. But if not, we'll talk to you next football season. And enjoy Europe. Have fun with that, and go check out some windmills. Maybe check out windmills and tulips.
Yeah, I think by the time we get back in the 3 weeks, they should have the roster pretty well set. We should know, you got these guys Brandon Murray, Musa Cisse, TJ Caldwell, Austin Nunez, Robert Cowherd. Haven't seen them in the portal. So what's happening? Are they going to stay, or we know several of them left, and the several guys in the portal, but these guys, we don't know what's going on. So hopefully, maybe in 3 weeks, we'll have a good roster of portal, and we'll know who's left, and we can go over that maybe if you want to.
All right, we can do that, absolutely. But enjoy your trip over to Europe, have fun, and I would say enjoy the food, but you're going to England, and that's not really an option.
Fish and chips, I reckon.
Yeah. Take care, buddy.
Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy.